BEP. And, every year when the governor has talked about funds going in the salary component for raises, because there's, a lot of districts have more positions. They have to pay more. They have more teachers than they do BEP funded teachers. So they don't get that full raise. And a lot of the legislators were concerned that we need to look at that. So when we do say there is going to be, or in the budget, it says it's a 4% increase, that the teachers do get that. And I don't know if they're going to be able to figure it out, but that there was probably more discussion on that than, as far as that thing went between, in the House and the Senate in committees, a lot of concern there.
If you don't mind, I'll add one other thing. When we're talking about the BEP, there are going to be several bills this year that may put additional funds into the figuring for the BEP based on the number of school nurses per student. And that's pretty much a need everywhere. I believe that Knox County funds independently school nurses to a degree above what the present BEP calls for. But there is a bill by, in particular, I believe it's carried by some of the leadership in the House, and it's some of the rural leadership, not just the urban areas. And so we may see some improvement there. We may be able to get more nurses into some of the schools.
Hey, Larson, this is Eddie. Let me just say, in the special session, we did not talk about BEP that much. And it's being a freshman, I don't say anything eloquently at this point. Everything I say is kind of just kind of innocent and naive. And so I ask all the dumb questions. Yesterday, I was in my office in Nashville and I was probably in the office about 9 hours and spent about 7.5 hours just on Zoom calls or face-to-face with education groups talking about lots of different things. And BEP is always at the top of the list. And so serving on the education committee, education instruction, I plan on continuing to push this conversation over and over, if nothing else, just for educating myself. But I want to learn more and keep pushing the conversation and say, how can we do better? And so, that doesn't help anything right now, but I can promise you, and I think speak for all of us, we hear about education all the time, or we are hearing it all the time. And so it will continue to be a priority for me. And I'm grateful to the speaker for appointing me to the Education Instruction Committee. So I will be working hard to try to I'm a little idealistic, so I will be working hard to make things better.
Thank you, Representative Manis. We actually, I'll send you, and anybody else who's interested, I believe it was last year when Ebony Satterfield and I were co-hosting the Joint Education Committee here in Knox County. We had a representative from the state come over and we did an entire session. It was close to 2 hours on BEP. We had a state representative come over and walk us through the entire thing. We have that recorded. We have all the charts and graphs and all the presentations, and it was a deep dive. And I felt like we barely scratched the surface after 2 hours of time, but it was very comprehensive. I'm happy to share that time with you, just share that presentation with you so you have it additional information.
I would appreciate
you
that.
also send it to Representative McKenzie as well.
Sure, I'll send it out to everybody if they're interested in watching it.
Hey, Larson, this is Jason. Just to close the loop on this, I texted the governor's legislative director, and this is exactly what he replied back with. He said there are bills right now that are being drafted to set up a process to look at what an update to the formula would look like. It's a long process. We want to make sure it's done right. And then Chairman Sapicki, who's one of the new education chairmen, he has a bill to address it as well. And so the administration's looking at it. The governor and I talked about it directly. I was in his office during the special session, and I talked to Susan Horn, and was able to give him the example of Knox County having almost 4,000 positions, but only being funded for 3,400. And so it is a priority for them. And again, that's a text that I just got back from them regarding the emphasis on it this year. And we'll probably have more traction looking at it this year than we've had in the last couple of terms.
Okay. Thank you for that additional information. Any other discussion about BEP or school funding right now? All right, I'm going to reshare my screen and move to our next legislative priority and ask Commissioner Schoonmaker to walk us through the next two items, one of which already has a bill attached to it, and you should be seeing that here. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Chairman Jay. We've been working on this for a couple of years now, so I know that Representative Carringer and several of you know what we're talking about here. But basically, and I'll use Representative Manis as an example, when he does his total receipts for the end of January and figures out exactly what the sales tax amount is, he has until February 20th to submit those to the Department of Revenue. Now, keep in mind, he doesn't fill out a form, he doesn't write a check. This is all done electronically. The Department of Revenue then sits on that money for probably 25 to 30 days, so that on March 17th to 19th, that money is, our local option sales tax then is remitted back to the trustee of Knox County. The problem is the Department of Revenue takes a fee for this electronic push of the button, so to speak, and they're collecting 1.125%. And the bill that Representative Wright and Senator Briggs have filed is to reduce that fee to 0.5%. Now, do you think this is important? Well, if you represent the city of Knoxville in your district, that fee costs them $1.8 million to get their own money back. If you represent the county area, that's about $800,000. And Representative Zachary, the cost to Farragut is about $175,000, again, to get their own local option sales tax back. So, nothing's been done with this for 20 to 25 years. And now that there's not this huge staff in Nashville that's taking paperwork and checks and matching it up and depositing and all that, the staff for that department has dramatically decreased. And there's no sense paying a higher rate for the service that's offered by the state. And of course, the county has no option. We can't collect it directly from each business. So what would this cost the state? It would cost about $18 million, give or take, which is nothing. But that $18 million would do a lot for the cities and towns and counties across Tennessee to make up some of the lost revenue now that the Hall income tax sunsetted on January 1st of this year. So again, this is something that's very important, not only to our community, but to the other 94 counties in Tennessee as well. And I hope that this next week when you go to Nashville, that you will sign on as a co-sponsor to this legislation.
Thank you.
What questions do you have?
Any questions on that topic from any of our state representatives?
Other than a question, I'll make a comment if you don't mind. I believe that this is the third year that Commissioner Schoonmaker and I have worked on this, the third session. The first session, we asked for all of the money back, a complete, and the fiscal note was high. And I won't say it was just out of hand rejected, because I think that the impression that I got from the legislature is, yeah, we probably need to do something about it. And just as John was mentioning, the hall tax is going away, and we need to do something to give some back to the municipalities and the counties. And it is some cut revenue from the state, but really, as far as government's concerned, whether it's local government or state government, it's really a net zero. And I don't know how they'll look at this with the fiscal review committee, because every bill has a fiscal note on it. Uh, I had spoken 2 years ago with Lieutenant Governor McNally, and I don't know if he's on the call today or not, but I'll refresh his memory. But this is that he suggested that maybe trying to eliminate all of it for the state was too much. So we're going to take a smaller amount, the 0.5% that we're talking about here. We didn't get to, the bill was out there last year, but because of COVID, we never, everything got short circuited and we never had an opportunity to present it. But I'm cautiously hopeful that this year we may be able to get this through, both to help the counties and also give a little justice to the entire process, since it was already mentioned, maybe 30 years ago it was all someone writing down in a book, or 50 years ago you were writing everything down by paper, and now it's all push button.
Well, and as a follow-up to that, it seems like every time I see the lieutenant governor, I give him a little shot in the arm, so to speak, to remind him that this is very important to the cities and counties in Tennessee. And he always kind of gives me that little grin.
Thank you for the update on that, Commissioner Schumacher. I'm going to share my screen again and have you walk us through the next item. And I do have that secondary.
Yeah, single article. Yeah, good.
I got to share the correct screen. Let's try this again. There we go. All right, I'll have you walk through that first, then I'll switch to the other slide.
Can you go to the PDF that did say single article sales tax? So that way everybody can see the chart and it's a little bit easier to explain that.
There you go.
There you go. Great. Thank you. Thank you. This has been something that's been going on for forever, seems like, and this relates to a major purchase. So if you look at the top part here, the first chart, you see on the first, what we're doing is we're saying that if, hypothetically you bought a $10,000 item. So the first $1,600, you'll see that the state collects 7%, so they get $112. Our local tax rate is 2.25%, so we collect $36. So on the second line where it says the second $1,600, the state collects 9.25%. Now, the state's very proud of telling everyone around the country that their sales tax rate is only 7%. But in this case, the actual effective tax rate is 9.25% that the state's charging. In essence, what they're doing is they're taking the local tax rate and adding it to their state level. So you see that they're getting $148 and we're getting zero. So at the end of the $10,000 purchase, the consumer pays $736 is credited to the state, but only $36 to the county or the city or where, the town where the item was purchased. So the second chart, or the bottom chart, is what the commissions across the state would like to see happen, where the state rate is effectively the same for the full amount of the $10,000. As you can see across, where the total state sales tax is $700, but the local revenue goes to $72. Now, keep in mind that the consumer, when he pays the state and local sales tax, he's still paying the same amount. There is no increase to the consumer. All we're doing is transferring that extra 2.25% on that second $1,600 back to the local entity where the item was sold. And you go, well, $36, that's no big deal, but it makes a big deal to all 95 counties. And it's just one of those things where this is just the right thing to do. There's no reason that the state should have a tax rate of 9.25% on one item that you purchase. If you're buying a flat screen TV or car, whatever. So what questions do you have on this? And this actually has support from the County Mayors Association, as well as the County Commissioners Association, and the cities are also looking at this as well. again, it's one of those things that it's the time for the right thing to be done.
Is there any discussion on this item from any of our state representatives, a single article sales tax adjustment?
Has this, the commissioner may have addressed this, but has this been brought up before with the legislature? Has this come out and been shot down, or is there any history with this?
Not really. They discussed it last year, but because of COVID, they didn't really go anywheres with it. So it's just kind of one of those where it's the education process of bringing this back up, like, hey, this is something that's been out there for a long time, and it does need to finally be rectified. So, but I think you'll see a push this year for that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Commissioner Schoonmaker. Appreciate everybody taking a look at that further. We just have two more items on our agenda before we sort of open it up for general discussion. The first is just sort of a general concept to think about as things progress in the auto industry. Certainly our state relies heavily on fuel taxes, and we are a state with no debt on our road and infrastructure costs, which is wonderful. But our rise of electric vehicles that will not need gas will certainly still use those same roads. And so it's just something to think about as we get the industry continues to shift and to maybe explore other options for how we might pay for our road and infrastructure system as we get more and more electric vehicles and what that might look like. I know that is a ocean liner kind of long-term thought and strategy, but something that is certainly happening as we speak. So
Yeah, thank you, Larson. Of course, those kind of discussions are going to be going through the Transportation Committee that I chair in the Senate, and we will be doing presentations on one, kind of how our funds are recovering from pandemic, just with for our road funds. And they are catching up. So I think being at the crossroads and everything is important. Has helped us catch up. But we are going to be looking at some proactive measures to see, what can we do? How can we be ready to pivot when those funds start decreasing? The one offsetting factor is we're an in-migration state, so we've got more people moving to the states, but we are going to have to change the way we get our road funding. So one interesting fact is that they've done all these the road traffic use studies, and of the 5 highest count traffic areas in the state, 4 of them are in Knox County. And at some point, I think we're going to start to have to reassess the idea of the Beltway. The bypass that goes around Knoxville, because, Nashville has so many different directions, but because we're at the crossroads, it's getting more jammed up and more jammed up. So, and everything we do is reactive, and we've got to start thinking ahead and be proactive on some things. So that's one thing, that's one of the goals of my committee is to keep working on that and keep those conversations going.
thank you, Senator Massey. By the way, I see in the chat box that Representative Manis said he'd be happy to co-sign on HB 192, the sales tax administration fee. So Representative Wright, you have another co-sponsor from Knox County to that one. A last item on our legislative priorities is the commercial property tax reductions. This is something that we struggle with, I think, on an annual basis, and we talk to with our property assessor, our trustee, and our finance team, is that industrial and large commercial property owners, they're continuously appealing their property taxes rates directly to the state and seeking reductions with third-party solicitors that are asking them to represent them and go and take a commission off of what they save. And the state is continuing to make lots of those decisions, which shift the financial burden back to us on a local level. So I'm not sure what can be done to mitigate that, but at the end of the day, every one of those reassessments that happens on a state level hurts us on a local level. And we have virtually no control of it, virtually no engagement with it. It's just, we find out when, when it's done, and it really hurts us on a local property tax level.
Mr. Chairman, could I add something to that?
Sure, go ahead.
And a good example would be if Knox County values a Lowe's store at $15 million. What happens is there's a specialty firm out of Chicago that comes in and tells Lowe's that if they can get their property tax reduced, would they pay them 30% of the savings? And of course, Lowe's is obviously, or Home Depot, or whoever is going to say yes. So what happens is they appeal it to the State Board of Equalization. And of course, the State Board of Equalization doesn't have any skin in the game, because it's not revenue that's going to the state, it's revenue that's going to the county or the city. And so what happens is the state then says, okay, we'll reduce your rate from 15 million to 12 million. Well, what happens is it doesn't become effective the next year. It actually goes back to when the last appraisal was, which was for us was 2016. So now our trustee, in some cases, is writing checks for $100,000, $175,000 back to these businesses to make it to where the State Board of Equalization said. And the bad problem is once these firms start realizing they can go to the Home Depot, the Lowe's, the Best Buys, the next thing they're going to be doing is the Walgreens, the CVS's, the Publix's, the Kroger's, all the way down the list to little neighborhood store. And what they're going to do is the state doesn't seem to ever put their foot down and stop this. And so what it's eventually going to do, it's just going to hurt the property tax base for Knox County. And the county, that is our sole source of income directly is from property tax, if you look at it just as a one source revenue. But anyways, so it's just something that needs to be on you guys' radar screen, because it's one of those where the state's making a decision that affects the income for the cities and the counties.
Thank you, Commissioner Schoonmaker. Any further discussion on that or any of our other items? That goes through our list. Certainly, you all have that in writing of our priorities, but I wanted to just kind of open the floor as we head towards the end of the hour and see if there's any other items on a state level that you think we ought to be aware on about on a local level, or anything on a local level that we can ask of you on a state level. Senator Briggs?
I'm not going to miss an opportunity to say something here, but one of the ways on these things that are important, particularly those that are dealing with taxes and some of the others, is to go to your county commission association. Charlie Curtis is the representative there. He's very well respected, very well thought of. You can go to those on issues that affect the whole state. If it just affects Knox County, it's tough to get interest someplace else. But if it affects all the counties, all the cities, go there. Talk to the city of Knoxville, get the municipal league involved. They also have their, I can't remember if Knox County right now has their own lobbyist, but I know that Tony Thompson is the lobbyist for the city of Knoxville. But in particular, if you have the municipal league, you have the county commission association working on this on behalf of all the counties, you have a much bigger voice than trying to pass a bill where it's just, it's just Knox County.
Appreciate that. I see a few other people that have come off of mute. We have Commissioner Bustler and Daly. Did you all want to chime in on something?
Happy birthday, Michelle.
Go ahead, Carson.
Thank you, Carson. Happy birthday. Go Dole.
Commissioner Bustler.
Thank you, Chairman Jay. A couple of things that we're looking at now, and I appreciate Senator Massey and what she said about electric cars. But since our current president we have in there is big opportunities to go green, which is to do away with gas burning cars. He's starting to do it inside the federal government and which vehicles that they're going to use. And go back to more, instead of coal, fossil fuels to do our electricity, which we have a lot of it here in Tennessee. They're starting to do away with those fire burning or the coal burning plants. And we have some facilities that are burning at like 95 to 90%, 96% pure when they're doing their coals in the way that they burn the coal to generate electricity. The cost between the two, green energy, where it's windmill, solar, or whatever, is going to really escalate. And then it's going to escalate on the cost of what we're doing for cars for individuals if we have to go with those cars. And that's a big problem when some of the people that I'm dealing with in my county, that if you raise their cost of living up $150 or $200 even a year, puts them in a situation that they're being taxed out of their homes just about. And then on the fire end of it, the ISO rating is one thing, but one component of ISO rating in fire sections is how close you are to a fire hydrant. And I've got some people that live out in the county that's over a quarter mile away or even a mile away from even the first hydrant going in there to get to that. And I understand what we're trying to do, but it's going to be difficult in some of the outlying parts of my district to get those ratings on their insurance because of where that fire hydrant is located. So we've got to list. We've had a couple of accidents out here in my district that has killed some people in the last few days. I happened to look at, been driving that area where those wrecks occurred. And this is not part of causing of those deaths, but it could be a part of causing wrecks. We're letting real estate people put up signs right on the roadway of state controlled streets. And when I pull out of where that Cunningham Road is, and I look left, I'm in the shopping center mall, some, Ace Hardware and things of that sort, down on in there as you start to pull out on Emory Road. If you're turning right on Emory Road, there's signs up that blocks the view and lets their visibility down of cars coming less than 75 feet. And it's on the state right of way. And we have no control over those going out there and say that they need to move those signs because they're causing a hazard. And we have to go through the state. Is there a simpler way or something like this, or who do I need to contact to say these signs that are being put up by these real estate companies that lease this property, and they're big signs, they're not small signs, and they're planted in the ground. Who can I go say, we need to have those moved back? Is there a special person we can call locally to get it done quickly?
Charlie, just send me an email with that all spelled out, and we'll follow up and get the answers for you and see if there's anything that we need to do, whether it's through rulemaking or what. But just if you get that to me, then we'll follow up on it, because that would be something that would probably fall under my committee. So.
Yeah. And I thank you all for listening to me, but it's just one of those things that I've been working on fire since I've been on here, talking to different people that have fire department and fire protection in their counties, are trying to get fire protection. And there's such a bigger cost that would come out for our community and our government to have to do that. It's, and the regulations on fire trucks and how long you can keep those in and what kind of training they have to go through. And the cost keeps going up for fire protection. And I don't know how we can supply it to all individuals in the county and do it in an equitable way too. So I'm not against it. I'm just saying we've got to look at who's paying the bill. Some of those people can't afford any more taxes on them. So anyway, I
Right.
appreciate you looking at that, and thank you for listening to me.
Well, the insurance thing would have to go to a commerce committee, which I'm not on. So we just,
Okay.
but the signage thing, we should be able to do that. And I think Carson Daly had his hand up.
Commissioner Daly?
Thank you. I just want to ask this question for clarification, and we'll go to the two sales tax questions. This is something that I consider, if I was there, would be a no-brainer. This should pass. Why will this not pass in the legislature? You've got county commissioners that are pushing, we're pushing you. I know our guys are pushing in Blount County, Anderson County. Why won't this pass? I mean, it's just fill me in with a simple answer. What's the holdup?
In 2 words, fiscal note, because it will take money away from the state. And so anything that has a fiscal note on it, it has to go to the finance committee. And either it has to get funded in the governor's budget, or the legislature has to take it away from something else to be able to fund that. And while it's definitely the right thing to do, it's the states, like you all, has to balance their budget. And so if you fund something, unless you can fund it out of recurring growth, it's that's where the rub comes, is finding out how to fund it. Because you're never deciding between good and bad when you're funding things, and just like you all on your budget. And we've got so many different issues and things that need funding, and we have to just, they have to find the funds to do it. So that's really why that would be the pushback and the challenge.
Well, $18 million out of $1 billion reserve is not much money at all.
Yeah, but it's like Ronald Reagan used to say, when you have an 18 million here and a 20 million here, and pretty soon you're talking about real money. So it does add up. I agree, 18 is not much, but you've got a lot of those. It does add up. So that's the challenge. We're not, since Senator Briggs is chairing state and local now, he is not on finance committee. So we lost one on the finance, but I think, Jason, you're on finance in the House, aren't you?
I don't think that
I think he's on finance. So I think we've got, and then Lieutenant Governor is ex officio on any of them. So on all the committees. So, we just need to continue the conversations and keep working on it. So you've got a good sponsor with Senator Briggs.
I agree. And that was one of the questions, is who's on the finance committee, but we'll be down on the 19th with the other county commissioners going over the bills. And this is when this one comes up, the ones that don't want to vote on it, those counties need to find new representatives. That's just plain and simple.
Right. And Representative Wright's the other sponsor of that, and he's a good one too. I didn't mean to slide him and everything, but we'll keep working on it and everything. I think Michelle has something to say.
Yeah. I grabbed my list here real quick. Jason Zachary is on Finance, Ways and Means Committee. I believe, just looking here real quick, I think he's the only one out of our Knox County delegation that is on finance. And I was going to check real quick and see who's on commerce for Charlie, because I know someone in our delegation, I believe, was on that. Let's see. Yeah, Jason Zachary is also on Commerce Committee. Eddie Manis is on Business and Utilities Subcommittee on that, and so is Jason. So sounds like a good Jason Zachary let's all gang up on Jason since we don't see him or hear him anymore, kind of like the Baptists do. If you're not there, let's put him in charge. So let's go for Jason.
Thank you, Ms. Carringer. Well, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. It's 9:56. If there are any last minute comments or questions for our state representatives, then now would be the time to do it.
Let me make one last comment, and it reiterates what I said a little bit earlier. And I don't know how active you are in your county commission association, but if that association picked maybe 3 legislative priorities every year, you coordinated it with the county commissioners day on the hill or whatever, plus you have your lobbyist, again, which is Charlie Curtis, working on things rather than the Knox County emphasis may be on the reduction, of the sales tax charge, and some other county is this and some other county is that. It doesn't have the same impact as if you come up there with about 3 things that you want done, and each one of those is lobbying their own representatives from their own county. That's how I think you can get things done rather than, just sort of shotgunning it with no concerted effort.
Good point. Thank you, Senator Briggs. All right, Commissioner Schoonmaker, you have the last question or comment, and then we'll wrap up our session here.
Yes, I just wanted to let Senator Briggs know that the Knox County Commission is very involved in the Tennessee County Commissioners Association. And Commissioner Daly referenced that we're going to meet the middle of this month to go over all of the bills that affect counties. And Charlie Curtis will be there. And I actually am the chairman of the Governmental Affairs Committee for the County Commissioners Association. So we are very involved, and you are correct. We need to have about 4 to 5 bills that affect all of the counties in Tennessee to see if we can't get those passed. But House Bill 192 and House Bill 327 are 2 great examples of bills that need to be passed this time. Thank you.
And just one other thing and I'd mentioned it to Commissioner Jay before we started, but on the baseball stadium project, if we could get a resolution from County Commission with their support, and we're going to ask for one from City Council, that will give us more direction in passing that. And I will be carrying it in the Senate. I know Senator Briggs is going to help me carry it. So anyway, that's one. And Charlie Susano and or Steven Susano, excuse me. I get my Susano brothers mixed up, and Mark Cade are the ones that kind of help the county on things. So, okay. Thank you all.
Hey, John, can you tell us those bill numbers again real quick?
Okay, for the sales tax administration fee, it's Dave Wright's bill 192.
Okay.
And then the bill to have a commissioner to attend a meeting remotely is 327 from Wright as well.
Michelle Larson sent out an updated copy, and Austin resent it this morning, and those bill numbers are on that updated copy. So you got that, should gone to your house email.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all for your time this morning, and thank you all for all the commissioners who joined us and state representatives. We appreciate the continued support and dialogue, and we look forward to seeing all that you can accomplish in the House and Senate.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.